Okay, good afternoon. I hope everybody's doing well, and thanks for tuning in. So, I want to do a fairly quick one here. Want to talk about the upcoming new moon, sidereal Gemini. Well, actually, if it's tropical, it'll also be a new moon Gemini. This one, sidereal, it's 2 degrees Gemini. I guess that's 26 tropical, which I'm not really concerned with the tropical. I'm concerned with the physical placement in the sky. So, 2 degrees Gemini, sidereal is new moon. So, some interesting things with this one. Thought I'd share it. So, let's break it down from the beginning. What's a new moon? So, new moon is when the sun, earth, and moon are all in alignment. The moon is coming between the sun and the earth. Whereas with a full moon, it's the earth in the middle. So you've got sun, moon, earth. And the moon darkens, goes into shadow, we can't see it. So, what do these mean? What is sun and moon? What do they stand for? Sun stands for the soul. It's a macrocosm of our individual souls, our collective soul. We project it, our minds project it into the sky. And then the moon is the mind, same thing. So, it's a conjunction. You can look at it as a planetary war, a union between sun and moon. Now, the sun is a proper luminary. The sun is its own light source. It generates its own light. The moon is a reflector. So when the moon is cut off from the sun's light, it doesn't reflect, it goes dark. So these new moons, it's a darkening of the moon, it's a darkening of the mind. Basically, the mind is animated, it's illuminated by energy from the soul and energy from the body. So this is when the energy of the soul does not reach the mind, so the mind darkens. Now, not necessarily a negative thing. It can feel negative, but it's necessary, it's part of the natural cycles. So when the mind darkens like this, it's basically refreshing, it's cut off from the light of the soul. It's basically, it's buffering, it's processing, it's integrating. Now it's also a portal. So this is basically a portal where you can intend with, your higher mind especially, you can intend things that you want to manifest. And additionally, in this darkening, it's an integrative period where we can basically get an inventory about the emotions in this intuitive and emotional consciousness, which our mind is. So it's a time to basically kind of get a grip on ourselves. So Gemini, sign of thinking and communicating. So it's the yang sign of Mercury. It's Mercury's yang home sign, whereas Virgo is the more yin sign. Virgo is more careful, deliberate, better thought out communication and thinking. Gemini is more like on the fly. Gemini deals more with like teaching and sort of speaking off the cuff, improvising. So Gemini deals with mass media, deals with things like reality TV. Very much Gemini nature. So, but yeah, Gemini is definitely, it's our thinking, it's our intellectual ability and our ability to communicate. So this new moon, it's going to affect mainstream media. Mainstream media is all over everybody's minds. More people day after day are seeing through it, not taking it seriously. Or when they do take it seriously, they believe the opposite of whatever mainstream media says. Things like Russia is like about to fold and lose the Ukraine war. It's like, yeah, okay. Joe Biden's the most popular president in American history. Yeah, okay. Yeah. especially when he's going to campaign, never leaving home, no debates, no campaign trail. Yeah, the guy's popular. Popularity is just about how many people you get in front of. So shit like that. What increasingly throughout the world, whatever mainstream media says, people believe the opposite. They know they're being gaslit. So this new moon's going to be all over that. So let's look at the lunar mansion. So what part of Gemini is this new moon in? So, all of the degrees, sun signs are 30 degrees wide. All of those degrees are not identical. Different parts of a sun sign have different personalities. So we get the lunar mansions. So you get 12 sun signs, and then those 12 sun signs are made up of 27 smaller lunar mansions. 2.5 within each sun sign. So, this one takes place, the Vedic name is called Mrigashira. The Western name I find, I guess, more inspiring, more interesting. It's Prometheus. Prometheus is a figure from Greek mythology, and he has counterparts in all of the other pantheons. So Prometheus was a light bringer, a fire bearer, a fire bringer, a god of fire. He was one of the Titans. He was one of the old gods from before the Olympians. So some counterparts. Prometheus is basically the same figure as Loki, Lucifer, Rahu, Phosphorus. So again, this trigger word Lucifer doesn't mean evil devil Satan. It is a Kickstarter, an energy that inspires us, gives us hope. Because these Lucifers, Prometheus, Rahu, Loki, they stand for the hope of, just the regular working people. And in everybody's life, they stand for what it is that we really want, our present life karma that brought us into this incarnation. So the things that we want to experience in this life so we can die happy, we can leave this world happy. So Prometheus, extremely curious. So Prometheus is one of these tricksters like Rahu, Loki, Lucifer. Trickster gods want to tell all the secrets. They want to get all the information out there. They want to reveal all the big secrets in the world. So, yeah, having a new moon here in Gemini, some new things are going to hit the news, The world's it's not going to be a QAnon job where the world's turned upside down, in the space of a few days. But more and more is going to come out. So you've got that going on. Now, less than 2 degrees away, there are a couple of fixed stars. So this new moon is within the orb of these stars. So 2 fixed stars in conjunction, Polaris and Betelgeuse, very powerful stars. So Polaris, the pole star, the North Star, what we call the North Star. The pole star, mythologically, is the abode, the home of the Sky Father. So the Sky Father, in pretty much every culture in Eurasia, has the syllable D or T in his name. So China is just D, Sky Father. Greece, you have Deus or Zeus, Latin Deus Pater. And then in the more Germanic pantheons, you have the D becomes a T, and you get Tyr or Tiu. So like Tiu, we get Tuesday. So this is the Mars god, the war god, and but is a god of law, a god of justice in the Germanic world. And again, this Germanic war god gives up his sword hand. He gives up his right hand to keep the peace. Very different type of war god. So these Sky Fathers are always guardians of human destiny and of the earth and of humanity. So very powerful for a new moon. So basically our minds have the opportunity, I don't want to say they're going to, they have the opportunity to intuitively basically channel the wisdom of this being, of this Sky Father. So pretty amazing, pretty powerful. And then Betelgeuse. So Betelgeuse, brightest star in the constellation Orion. Orion, mythological figure, was a hunter, a warrior. You know, if you put images, if you superimpose images over the constellations, Orion is raising a club in his right hand because he's fighting the bull of Taurus. So Betelgeuse is the star that is in Orion's, his right shoulder or his armpit, you know, which are basically one and the same. Shoulder is just the underside of an armpit. So this is basically, you know, you need the shoulder to fight and to swing a weapon. So this is the arm that Orion is swinging the weapon with. So this is a star of military skill, bravery, great intelligence, and also, very interestingly, it is a star of karma that must be paid and suffering that must happen. So very often throughout life we have to pay karmas. There are times when we have to suffer in order to grow, to evolve, and basically to balance our karmic debt from over the course of our lifetimes. So in one life, if you live a hard life, eventually you're going to get it. You're going to have an easier time. You're going to get a good deal. If you have a lot of good deals, you're going to have to balance it out. You're going to have to suffer a little bit. So it goes back and forth like this. So it deals with that. Now, an interesting thing about Betelgeuse is before the pandemic, so in 2019 into early 2020, Betelgeuse was actually blinking. So it appeared to be blinking. And I'm thinking of Algol. Betelgeuse was dim. And the dimming of Betelgeuse, it's basically an omen. It's an augury that something's coming. So it's a very powerful star. So it's very powerful to have a new moon here. So what this tells me is that having this in Gemini, having in the lunar mansion of Prometheus, with the Sky Father, with Betelgeuse, we're basically, from higher dimensions, we're going to receive a potential to understand more, to have more information revealed to us, to see the world more clearly. And this information, it's basically going to be like Orion's weapon that will be used to help balance out the world, basically, help balance out our reality. Now, what keeps the world out of balance? Well, illusions, our own illusions. We choose to be deluded. Propaganda, it's not so much about being lied to, but it's an opportunity to lie to ourselves. You know, the most dangerous people who can manipulate us most effectively are the ones who tell us things we want to hear. So that's what propaganda is. We see something we want to hear, we believe it, and we exclude every other point of view. So, yeah, there's basically, I think, going to be some destruction within the whole mainstream media world, some destruction of bullshit narratives. Still, it's building. It's going to take a while before people can agree that the media is lying. You know, good, 40% of the population always doubles down on it. So, and then another thing too is this new moon will be square, within a degree, will be square Neptune and Pisces. So Neptune on the one hand is a higher dimensional divine love, unconditional universal love. It's also delusions. You know, Neptune stands for visual media, you know, television, media that comes over television or any kind of a screen. It's a virtual reality. Neptune deals with virtual realities and addictions, which are pretty much the same. The news is an addiction. Television is an addiction. So having Neptune squared here, squares are basically our tense aspects. It's when planets are 90 degrees away from one another. So it's going to be kind of an abrupt disharmonious sort of an energy. And people are either going to have aha moments and they're going to be like, oh, wow, that's unbelievable that I've been lied to and this other stuff's been happening. Or other people are going to say, yep, been telling people. And other people are going to, they're going to double down. They're going to have tantrums. They're going to say, no, this is a democracy and the media tells me the truth. I'm important. I have a beautiful house. I'm going to work every day for decades and I've never been sick. And it's like, I was in the military. My grandparents won World War II. Well, nobody fucking cares. You can still be fooled. You can still fool yourself, rather. So that's pretty powerful. Having Neptune squared that. Now, the other thing here, on that very day, Saturn goes retrograde at 13 degrees sidereal Aquarius. So that's a biggie too. When Saturn goes retrograde, Saturn is the judge, the enforcer of the law. Saturn is a public servant, sticks up for the underdogs, sticks up for, common people. When Saturn goes retrograde, Saturn goes back and corrects things, reviews and corrects things. So, and Aquarius is a really neat sign for Saturn. So, Saturn has two home signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn's a tough love and the restriction. Aquarius is where Saturn loosens up and basically gives gifts. So, and Aquarius, especially for America, is the third house of media. So, Saturn is going to go back and start correcting some falsehoods within the sphere of mass media. So pretty cool. I'm going to look up my retrogrades here. I want to double check something. Yeah, so Saturn is going to be in retrograde this year, 2023, until November the 4th. Saturn's retrograde, it'll retrogress until 6 degrees Aquarius. America's natal moon is 7 Aquarius, sidereal. So Saturn is going to go, it's been over America's natal degree once within the last few months. It's going to go back over it and then back over it again. So mainstream media is going to get some real kicks in the balls here with all this stuff going on. Saturn retrograding on the day of the new moon in Gemini, mass media, Prometheus, a trickster god, keeper of secrets, a light bearer, one who wants to inspire and enlighten. And then Neptune square the new moon. So Neptune can either help you to see things clearly or just help you to fool yourself more. So depends what level of maturity you approach it with. So pretty neat. So stay tuned for more developments. What was it? Within the last few days, it was, Dr. Stephen Greer had his big press conference with the expert witnesses to the UFO phenomenon, that whole thing. It's pretty interesting. I don't think he's a complete renegade. I think he's being backed by a faction of government that doesn't want to have a false flag, alien ET war in order to lock the planet down. But he's not telling the full truth. I think he's working for a better, less filthy deep state faction, kind of like Donald Trump was working for. There's this whole thing about all this reverse engineered technology, and people are like, oh, well, is it from actual physical aliens? Is it from a craft that came out of 5D? Well, I think the big secret that even Stephen Greer won't tell, which is total American or even Western world heresy, is that these reverse engineered spacecraft that the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy, and the American aerospace industrial complex is in possession of, From what I've seen, I think they're reverse engineered Nazi spacecraft. And I think these sorts saucer craft were actually successful in the 1930s, 40s, maybe the 1920s. Certainly the people from intelligence communities, intelligence services from the Eastern Bloc countries like Poland and Russia have actually written books about documents that they've found within their careers. And there's strong evidence to suggest that Nazi Germany had saucer craft that were even faster than anything that is considered state of the art today. So I think, like, for example, what was that, Los Alamos, New Mexico, it was in 1947. With the UFO crash, they found like fiber optics, Kevlar, all those types of materials that we now take for granted. Oh, it was a Roswell crash. They found all of those like materials like that we now take for granted in the Roswell crash. And in 2 years before that, during the paperclip debriefing, when the Nazi scientists and intelligence people and doctors were brought into the United States, when they were debriefed, they described to their debriefers materials just like Kevlar and fiber optics. So I think that's the great heresy that not even Stephen Greer talks about. These reverse engineered alien craft were actually Nazi. And so basically at the end of World War II, the Nazis gave the US and the Soviets all of their obsolete technology, like rockets, atom bombs, all that stuff. And they engineered the whole Cold War and actually played both sides for fools. So that's going to be years before that comes out. But that's just a little lens when you see Stephen Greer. Look at him through that lens. And actually, there's a great book called Nazi International by Dr. Joseph Farrell. He lays this whole scenario out. Excellent book. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in.